Of the European Council meeting of 17th and 18th December, I first of all give the floor to the President in Office, Nicolas Schmidt.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames.
President, members. The European Council's agenda in December will be a full one. There will be vital issues for Europe on the agenda, such as migration, combating terrorism, economic and monetary union, the internal...
EFDD.
On behalf of the EFDD, I give the floor to Chairman Farage.
Another European summit and yet another power grab. It's funny, every single time a European Union policy fails, and that's pretty often, the demand is more centralisation and more Europe. And I think by any measure, the EU's common asylum policy, albeit given rocket boosters by Chancellor Merkel, has been a dramatic failure. Not only will millions continue to come, few of whom, of course, would qualify as genuine refugees, but it's become an open invitation to terrorism. So our solution is that the EU Border Agency and the EU Maritime Services should be given powers and the ability to declare force majeure over the member states. And incredibly, the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, is supporting this. And yet, that's the same Prime Minister who is going in to have a meeting with you tomorrow night to talk about our so-called renegotiation. I hope he fares better than last time. The last time he attempted this, he got to speak at 1 o'clock in the morning, spoke for a total of 7 minutes, during the middle of which the French President, Monsieur Hollande, got up and went out for a pee. So I hope they take him a bit more seriously this time, though I sense that nobody in this room is exactly quaking in their boots. After all, he has asked for almost nothing and is unlikely to even get that. But I'm sure we'll be treated to the usual theatricals. A grave-faced Prime Minister will come back to Britain to say how tough the negotiations have been, to say that he will not give in, and there'll be hints that perhaps the Prime Minister will even support Brexit if he doesn't get his way. I think we should take that about as seriously as when he banged the table and said he would not pay the 1.75 billion sterling surcharge 18 months ago, and yet then meekly obliged. In February, the charade will come back. There'll be a European summit, and on something minor and inconsequential, there'll be a deal, and a referendum will happen in June 2016. Opposition to this project is growing right across the continent. 15% now of the Hungarian population have signed a petition against migrant quotas. We saw an extraordinary advance in the French National Front in the elections in France last week, but so far nobody has reached the tipping point. Well, the British referendum may be that moment, and the momentum is on our side. It isn't just about getting back national democracy, it's actually about getting back national self-confidence. And I think for those of us that believe in nation-state piercing, 2016 is a very bright dawn indeed. Thank you.
Monsieur Farage, il y a une demande de carton bleu.
Mr. Farage, there's a blue card.
Monsieur Luca. Microphone.
Hello. Wenn das britische Volk ihre Ansichten teilt.
If the British people was going to share its views on the EU and your views on the EU and your views on Cameron, how come UKIP hasn't got more than one seat in Westminster?
Mr. Luca, as you may or may not understand, we have a very odd electoral system in the United Kingdom, but I would remind you in the European elections UKIP won those elections, and right across the continent we are seeing the centre, the left and the right, genuine opposition to the European project growing. The disappointment, Mr. Luca, is that people like you in Germany, who've been critical of so many aspects of the Union, of so much about the euro, appear not to have the courage to logically follow through your own convictions and to conclude that this project is the wrong project, and what we want is a Europe of democratic nation states trading together, being friends together, but without the flag, without the anthem, without the Commission and without the European Parliament.
La parole est à Monsieur Ferrand, au nom du groupe.
Mr. Ferrand, on behalf of the ENF group, for 1.5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, courage subsides. That could be the topic for the next European Council. Claims to fight terrorism are made by the heads of state and government, but hundreds, even thousands of terrorists are entering amidst the migratory flows. Most of the killers of the...
We need real leaders, true leaders, with us as well. Those national leaders who want the EU to do well and prosper, and then we can save the European model.
Thank you, Mr. Pitella. For the ECR group, the chairman, Mr. Kamal.
Thank you very much. No, for every single one of this week's summit items, there is no simple answer, no simple soundbite, no one policy, no one council conclusion to solve all the crises facing Europe. And far too many people offer simplistic responses. Some speak of more Europe, a single EU intelligence agency, a single European army, leading to a single European government. Others speak of no Europe, closing our borders completely, no entry, no migration, no cooperation. And sometimes the only voices that appear to be heard are those of the extremes. And our politics is in danger of becoming more polarised at a time when our world becomes more complex. But these crises, they descend 140 characters of a tweet. Don't tweet that, by the way. The migration and the refugee crisis has no simple answers. There is no silver bullet. It must be tackled at source, and we must work our way to a political solution in Syria, however slowly and however frustrating that is. But not everyone who is coming here is necessarily fleeing war, but understandably seeking a better life. But who can blame them? But we simply cannot offer everyone a home regardless of their personal circumstances. We must have clear rules in place to grant asylum to those genuinely fleeing persecution, but to return economic migrants to apply through existing immigration channels. But instead, we see one large member state sending out a message that everyone is welcome, regardless of their personal circumstances, regardless of their reason for travelling, and then berates other member states when they re-erect borders. We see other member states not living up to their responsibilities to detain and process people. And when they're unable to cope, they don't ask for help. So instead of all this, we see knee-jerk policies in the heat of a crisis, like a relocation scheme based on a simple idea, but never really rooted in reality, only helping 116 people to date, 160 people to date. And when reality bites, the rhetoric changes. So when Schengen states talk of re-erecting borders, we finally focus on strengthening the EU's external borders, with talk about a European border guard. Yes, we agree. Enhancing Frontex and cooperating to help Frontex can help. But we need to be very careful about how and what we agree now will work, not just for the next few months, but for the years ahead. And instead of compulsion over member states, we need more cooperation between member states, not using a crisis to undermine sovereignty. The same goes for the terrorism crisis we now face. We must react calmly and rationally with policies to address the threat. And yes, it's good to see member states, some of our member states are going after Daesh in the Middle East. But we now need to build trust between member states' intelligence agencies to share data, not compel them. And we must also tackle the wider issues that lead young people to be recruited by Daesh. The identity crisis that leaves young people vulnerable to Daesh's tactics will only be made worse if we seek to demonise or ostracise our Muslim communities in our countries. Now, turning to the UK's request for reform, you may be surprised to hear that I might have a few words to say about this. But we all know that the majority of these requests could be accommodated relatively easily. And there's some work to do to accommodate both the UK's requests and to pursue further European reform. As a British Conservative, I'm proud that it's a British Prime Minister who will deliver a referendum for the British people. Dream on. As a British MEP, I will help where I can with the renegotiation process and to explain to colleagues here and to my voters who will have the final say. But as the leader of the ECR group, I hope this process will act as a catalyst for for EU-wide reforms. So looking at the summit agenda, there are some tough issues that need some proper thinking and planning. 2014 was a year of a new European Parliament, a new Commission, but 2015 has been a year of knee-jerk reactions. 2016 needs to be the year for laying the groundwork for long-term solutions based on cooperation.
And Brexit.
Thank you, Mr. Kamal. Mr. Coburn, we missed you. Mr. Coburn shouting out rubbish and so on. Mr. Etheridge very surprisingly asked a question of you, Mr. Kamal. I see he's very surprised that I've called him.
Good morning and Merry Christmas to Mr. Kamal. It's nice to be close to you. I'm normally up in the gods up there. I heard a lot of what you don't want, so I'm going to try and pin you down on something you do want. Now, I'm not going to ask you about the referendum because you've sidestepped that at least a dozen times. So what I wonder is, do you still hold with your party and your leaders' long-term aim to give full EU membership to Turkey? And if that's the case, when would you like to see that happen?
Actually, I think that we all need to be completely honest with Turkey. I have said this a number of times. Let's be honest, Turkey will never join the EU. I'm sorry. But there are too many reasons why Turkey will not join. Some of it based on pure prejudice about their faith and about Turks. Some because people believe that Turkey is not in Europe. Some because they want a common foreign security policy and they do not want the borders to be with Iran, Syria and Iraq. Also, others because they worry about given the population of Turkey, the number of MEPs they will have and the votes in Council. You put all those reasons together, actually we've got to stop being dishonest with Turkey. It's time for all of us to be honest and say that they will never be members of the EU.
Thank you. For the Liberals group, the chairman, Mr. Verhofstadt.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yesterday, I posted two short films on my Facebook as an introduction of the debate of today. One short film on how Syrian refugees are treated the last months on the Hungarian border, and then a second short film how Mr. Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has welcomed them a couple of days ago, these 25,000 who entered in Canada. And I have to tell you, if you look to the pictures and you put them next to each other, the difference cannot be bigger. It's even shocking. And it's not the case that you can enter without any problem in Canada. There is border control in Canada. That's very clear, but the pictures show that they are received there in a decent way, in a human way, with compassion, and not with fear, not with hate, by entering, I should say, through a normal door, and not on their knees under barbed wire, coming into Europe. So there's also the main reason, Mr. Juncker, why I fully applaud, and my group fully applaud, the proposal of the European Commission to set up a European border and coast guard, to stop what is in fact happening today, to stop what is in fact an insane competition between some member states who, like in a ping-pong game, are moving the refugees from one neighbouring border to another, to stop also, I think, the chaotic, not to say sometimes non-existing management of some of our borders, like, for example, is the case in Greece. So I believe that your proposal is key. Is key, this European border and coast guard, because without it, it could be the end of Schengen, and it could be also the end of the European project. And I think even that countries that don't want to participate to the European border and coast guard have no place in the Schengen area if they are not willing to cooperate in this. And so my plea to the European Council now is, because the European Commission has done its work, is to decide on it. You don't do it. I have here, that's the advantage with the Council, they have already their conclusions before they are meeting each other. That's the difference with the European Parliament. We meet and then we conclude. There they have it before. Well, it's not in the conclusions. In paragraph 2 they say we're going to examine it. Why is it not possible, Mr. Schmidt? Why is it not possible to decide really, yes, the European Council is in favour of a European border and coast guard, and then to start naturally to examine together with the two institutions based on a fast track procedure the proposals of the Commission? No, it's not possible. It is examined. Well, I hope that you come back to debrief about the European Council together with Mr. Tusk, and that's going to be changed in your conclusions, that at least the principle of the Commission is done and is agreed to. And that brings me to my second point, the fight against terrorism. Also here, let me say, it's not your fault. I think it is the services of Mr. Tusk who have prepared it. The conclusions are completely weak. The only thing about fight against terrorism on Thursday and Friday is, okay, we're going to enhance information sharing. And then 2 pages of all the stuff of enhanced information sharing you're going to make in the coming days. Well, we don't need enhanced information sharing. We need mandatory information sharing, the fastest as possible. And that is my plea to the European Commission. Is it not possible for the European Commission to come forward with what I call a horizontal mandatory sharing of information clause? You could do it by a regulation, for example. And that means horizontal, that it should apply to all databases. All databases that we possess. That can be Schengen Information System, that can be ECRIS, that can be the Europol databases, that can be the Frontex databases and the 28 new PNR databases. Why is it not possible that in one regulation you say from now on there is a horizontal, mandatory sharing of information clause between all these databases in Europe? And that is my second point. And my third point, my last point, is about the point, naturally, of Mr. Kamal. I don't know when he's playing Mr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, when he is a British Conservative or as an ECR chairman. Well, on Brexit, my appeal is, Mr. Kamal, to look at it in a positive way, in a constructive way, in an offensive way, and not in a defensive way. It is, in my opinion, an opportunity to reform Europe. So let's add to the 4 requests of the British government all the in-depth reforms we desperately need in Europe. A new governance for the Eurozone, new tools in the geopolitical challenges we face. Yeah, why not a defence community? I agree with the Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, when he is refusing an ever closer union. We don't need an ever closer union, we need desperately a federal union. That's very clear between the European member states. That is what we need. So I agree with him. And then finally, to Mr. Weber, it's true. There were good things in 2015 either, and we have made progress. But for the hell's sake, let's make 2016 better than 2015 to make Europe great. Thank you.
Mr. Verhofstadt, a colleague, Kava, would like to ask a question.
Once you've stopped waving your arms around all over the place, doing an excellent impersonation of a skydiving octopus, won't you perhaps stop to consider the use of your word EU project? Don't you understand, sir, that this isn't some classroom project, but actually the lives and aspirations of 500 million people from 28 very different countries? Don't you understand, Mr. Verhofstadt, that you're playing games without frontiers? C'est juste en frontier.
So I can no longer play octopus. Maybe a shark is better then for you. Could be better to eat you up. Yeah. Okay, but that's it. It's very clear that the people in Europe, the 500 million citizens in Europe, know very well that their future is not by retreating back behind national borders. The world of tomorrow will be a world dominated by China, India, the US, the Russian Federation. And if we want to play a role, we're going to do it together or not at all.
Okay. Vielen Dank. Das Wort.
Thank you. I now give the floor for the United Left to the chair, Mrs. Zimmer. Mr. Juncker, you said rightly it will never be simple in Europe. It's never been simple, and it won't be in the future either. However, I'm convinced that if now the member states are suddenly asked to give up their rights of sovereignty to form a European common border agency which can act against their will, and if that is backed up with the threat that those who don't agree will lose their entitlement to the Schengen area, I don't think that is constructive or will contribute to trust between member states. Experience of recent years shows, however,